Welcome to Callaghan Motors, Warrnambool's longest established vehicle dealership. Callaghan's first opened in 1933, and so began a three-generation journey. Car brands and vehicles have come and gone, but what has stayed the same is the determination to keep moving forward. This was started by Frank Callaghan and has since been continued by Brian and Steve. Tonight, we stand in a state-of-the-art facility consisting of dedicated staff and management who have consistently made the customer their #1 priority. And like any business, Callaghan Motors would not exist without people who purchase. To all of you who have been a customer of Callaghan Motors, we say thank you.
Callaghan's been a lifetime job for me.
By far one of the best presented dealerships that certainly we have in our region as a provincial dealer.
One thing with the Callaghans was you always knew that the customer was the major focus.
There's some institutions in town we all know that are the fabric of the community, and Callaghan Motors is there.
It is a great place to work, and I always believe that if you work in a place where you have a lot of good people around you, it makes every day enjoyable and interesting.
Still got a bit of colour there, and that's because we've got great people around the place, and they're the ones that work day in, day out, looking after customers, and that's the key.
Do you reckon back in 1964, 65, when you started selling cars, Brian, that you'd have a car that could talk back to you, or you could tell a car where you want to go and it'd direct you on a display?
We were actually fitting heaters to cars at the dealership. We were fitting air conditioning to cars at the dealership, let alone push button windows. They're all wind up windows, and the real changes for me in the dealership was the change to the franchise system. We started off with Holden, just one franchise, then it got more complicated. To make it viable, you had to have a number of franchises. Well, that added an awful lot of complexity because we added Suzuki, we added Mitsubishi, we added Mercedes-Benz. So the whole thing was a lot more complicated because you had all these other manufacturers then to satisfy. They all had a different stocking system, they all had a different, well, even the technicians, they all had to be trained in each different franchise. So the service department was a lot more complicated too.
I was with Holden for 32 years prior to the brand closing. Then I transitioned into Mitsubishi, where I'm now currently the State General Manager. I've known the Callaghan family for around 20 years, so long association.
Now, tell us, in your opinion, what do you pinpoint as to their success to be still going as strong as they are?
I think their success stems from their focus on customer satisfaction and also their involvement in community. They definitely see the value of customer satisfaction, how they interact with customers, and in terms of what that means locally for them in Warrnambool, and also their involvement in local schools and supporting local schools in terms of career pathing them through to employment in the dealership and in the broader community.
Rob, do you want to introduce yourself and your association with Callaghan Motors?
Rob Lee was ex-service manager here at Callaghan's for a 25 years service manager. Started at Callaghan's. I loved cars from an early age. Brian gave me the opportunity to be the service manager in about '97 and used to pride myself pretty much on building relationships with even customers, reps, staff, because we looked after the customer and we'd sort out the rest later on. So it was always good and made my job easy, knowing that the customer was #1.
Well, over the years I've been a customer, and also I've enjoyed the community generosity of Callaghan's. And in more recent years with the Melbourne to Warrnambool, we've had some fantastic generosity from Steve and his team, always supporting the Melbourne to Warrnambool and many other community initiatives which I'm involved in. Steve's a friend of mine. Steve always offers to help out. I mean, sometimes, as you would know, that when you're involved in community service, sometimes it's hard when you have to go and ask the questions, but Callaghan's always step up and support us. I mentioned before about the Melbourne to Warrnambool. We also have other events such as the Dirty Warnie. Callaghan's provide the cars for it. We run a big ride every year. Callaghan's provide dozens of cars for us. Not to mention that Callaghan's also raise thousands of dollars for a number of not-for-profits such as Big Life, which I've been involved in. And it's that generosity which I think makes Warrnambool a town that we're all very proud of, a town that we always have great community services, and part of that reason is because we have organisations such as Callaghan's who give.
My name's Danielle Keeler. I am our marketing coordinator here at Callaghan Motors, so I look after all of our social media and websites and advertising and everything pretty.
Big job.
Very big job.
Lots of staff here, lots of franchises, massive business. I would imagine with that comes some interesting things. Like, is it an interesting place to come to work, Callaghan's?
Yes, it definitely is. When you say about manufacturers, we have a lot of manufacturers here, so each manufacturer has a lot of models as well. So that's very interesting for me. It's been a bit of a steep learning curve to try and remember everything about all the models. I know I'm not a salesperson, but it is still a big part of my role to know about all the brands and what models they have. So that's quite interesting as well for me to try and get my head around all of that when I have never been a car person before I worked here. So it's not just one person who sells the car, it is the whole team behind them. If there's no one coming in the door, they can't sell a car. So we have to work as a big team to get a lot of people through the door and make the sale in the end. So it is good to be part of that, even though it's not me putting the big tick on the board for the car. I do feel like our team does help with that.
Well, Steve, it seems a little bit odd to ask you, but can you introduce yourself and your relationship with the business?
Yeah, okay, Monkey. Steve Callaghan from Callaghan Motors, and I've been working in the business since 1996.
Righto. Now, amazing. 90 years, 3 generations. I'm sure you've been asked this many a time, and I've been asking a lot of your colleagues and staff. What's the secret?
I think a bit of luck. No, but seriously, Monkey, I think got to have good product, and we've been very fortunate over the journey. We've had brands come and go, but we've sort of got our timing right, with our product. World-class product, bringing to Southwest Victoria, pretty amazing really. When Holden left, it was 50% of our business, and to have Hyundai, Ram, LDV and MG come on board, it's just been amazing. It goes really well with Mitsubishi, Benz and Suzuki. Yeah.
Because it's one thing to have the great product, and I agree with you on all those, but there's got to be something else. I mean, your people and staff, obviously.
That's, look, process. We're big on process here, but also people are the key. If you don't have good people around you, you're just nowhere. Like, we, across the whole group, including the caravan business, we've got about 75 people. It's probably equivalent to about 63 full-time staff. Look, I know I'm a bit grey, but still got a bit of colour there, and that's because we've got great people around the place, and they're the ones that work day in, day out, looking after customers.
Now, when you talk of family businesses that span 90 years and somewhat of a dynasty you've created, you've got to think of your forebearers, your father and your grandfather. What are your thoughts and comments about those two gentlemen and the impact they had on you?
Yeah, look, I've been very fortunate to be able to, jump on their shoulders, really. They set the foundations, and I know in 1933 he had a lot of tough times to get through, and then the war and the whole shebang, and then Dad come along. It's interesting how the wheel turns. They parted ways with MG and got GM Holden, and then when Holden left, we brought back MG. Pretty amazing, but they set the groundwork. Pa was very much got to be dependable, reliable, and drilled that into me as a young kid. I remember that distinctly. Dad was all about passion. Like, he'd come home, he'd come and go, let's finish tea, we've got to go down to the dealership and check out the new Magna. And we'd go down there, or the new Starion, or the new Wilkinshaw Commodore, and that sort of gets in your blood, My kids now, they say, Dad, how many cars you sell today? And if it's not a good enough number, they're going, Dad, you got a lift.
Well, maybe we can speak about the future, and credit to you, because sometimes these family businesses, the buck stops somewhere, but not with you. You've obviously taken it on board and took a risk. What you've done out here, it's simply amazing, but a credit to you for that. But what's next? I mean, you don't strike me as a family and an individual that'll rest on your laurels. What's on the horizon?
Yeah, good question. There's one thing guaranteed, things will keep changing. And I think through our 90 years, we've had to adapt and change and grow as the industry changes, the world changes, and the community needs changes. So we'll just have to keep adapting and try and make every post a winner.
Well, mate, congratulations to be standing here today and still running a business that's been going for 90 years is a real credit to you, and well done.
Thanks, Muggy.